Welcome to Block 6 of your Athletic Development Program for the Advanced Athlete. This is your Strength and Power unit, and we're going to talk you through the exercise we'd like you to do in this block. The first exercise will be very familiar to you, and what we're trying to get you to do is repeat this movement so you can start loading it and get more efficient with the movement as you progress. So again, there's 3 variations of loaded squat. The first one is body weight. That's if you don't have equipment at home to load. So the loading technique here is tempo, so speed of movement. So it's 4 seconds down and 1 second out. This is a body weight movement. So it's a loaded squat in terms of tempo. But again, if you have weight, we'll talk you through the variation with weight. Okay, so it's a body weight squat with tempo. So 4 seconds down. So it's low eccentric, so low lowering. So hands out in front, 4 seconds down, and then 1 up using the bench if you want that support. If not, step away from the bench. Again, ideally, it's away from the bench because then your body has to control the movement down and get yourself out of it than using something artificial like a bench. But if you have to use the bench, by all means. The next variation then is a goblet squat. Again, at home if you have dumbbells. It's a nice one to load up. So again, quite safe movement here. The bar is close to the chest. You're sitting back into the movement. Weight is going from the midfoot to sort of the heels, and you're sitting back as low as you can. Again, with and without the bench. Without the bench is preferable, but if you need the bench for support, then that's absolutely fine, or use it as a reference if you like. And the final one then is the front squat. So 2 dumbbells, close to your shoulders, elbows up, sitting down, again using the bench. You can see the difference here when he uses the bench, it sort of takes the momentum out of the movement and then he can generate it back up again. But this one you've got to control that momentum going down and up. In this phase, like before, we're 8 repetitions, so you'll do that 3 times. We'll go through the next exercise now, but there are your variations of that movement. The next one is a new one, so step ups. We're going to use a low box step up here. Now you can load it up as well, or you can try to run. You can do the weights here on this one. Load it up, but the important point here is the height of the box is really important. Now we've got a low box here pretty much, and when I say low, it's always relative to the person doing it. So for a shorter person this would maybe be appropriate, but for Ronan it's a low box. And when I say low, it means the angle created here of the knee and the hip is less than 90 degrees. So if that's up at 90 degrees or above, then it becomes a high box. Now we don't want to be above, like the Ronan's demonstrating there. We don't want to be above here because that's loading it up in a way we don't need to load right now. So kind of keep it at about 90 degrees is optimal, and below that is probably safer. But here's the low box. Now, once you have this, there's a few things that I often see that are done poorly with this exercise. So you need I often talk about setup is so important. It determines which muscles get recruited better or less. So the setup here is make sure you're a wider base. So yes, take a step. Then the back foot needs to be straight also. The back foot is slightly externally rotated at the minute, so make sure you straighten it up. And now what you want to do then is transfer weight onto that loaded foot. Yeah, so transfer slightly, so not forward, more laterally, so more to the side. So you're loading up on that hip and then you make the step up. Otherwise, the body's very good at figuring out the best way, the most efficient way to do it. So what it'll do is you'll contribute more then from the pushing off foot on the floor. So make sure there's just a little shift. It's not a major one, it's not too exaggerant. Or exaggerated, so it's just shifted to one side and then you make the step up onto that box, because otherwise then you contribute more and it'll be more of a calf raise on the back foot. So just shifting onto that foot that's on the box and then making the step up. 8 repetitions on each side here. Do loaded if you have dumbbells, if not, similar to the slow count on the step up. Yeah, so 8 repetitions, just make sure the box is right. And you're stepping fully onto it as well. See, even if you put partial foot on, the heel is slightly off, that's going to affect how the body recruits muscles also. You need that heel contact is what we're looking for here. So full foot on the box, step up, little weight shift and step up. Also, that's looking at the lower extremities from the upper body. Make sure you're looking forward also as well. You don't want to have it looking down. You want to stay looking forward, pick a point in front of you and stay looking at that point, and then do your movements. Okay. So next one, so we always do the programs, as you've noticed, it's a bilateral exercise first and then there may be a unilateral one, so the step up, and then we do our 2 posterior exercises. So the first one is a good morning, but a variation of a good morning. So a good morning is 2 legs together and you bow forward, bow with the hips. Today we're going to do slightly different. If you have a barbell at home, by all means, if you just have a broomstick, absolutely fine. But what we're going to do here is slightly load one leg. So we're stepping one leg in front of the other. And the alignment here is the top of the toe should be in line with the heel. And then you're having a bit of wide base support, so you're going a bit wider than hip width apart, and then you're creating the movement. So from the side here will be a good angle. Ron needs to keep his back straight. Keep this relatively tight without extending through the spine, just nice and tight, a bit of tension here, and then you're leaning into the movement, and it should load up the glute and hamstring on one side. What you want to do here is the leg that's been loaded, keep it relatively straight. A soft knee is okay, but you don't want a locked up knee either, and you definitely don't want a really bent knee. Okay, and if that is the case, take the step closer to your body, because the further away from it is more range needed. So maybe even step closer to the other foot, and it might make it easier. Make sure you're getting that nice range. And then 8 reps on one side, and then change legs. Yep, good. If you're unfamiliar with this exercise, start unloaded or with a broomstick. The idea of the broomstick here is just to keep your shoulders back. So you're too rounded forward with your shoulders, it doesn't create as much load at the hamstring. So it's just to keep your shoulders back a little bit. But the error here could be you over arch your back. So just keep your back in neutral position, a little bit of tension in the upper body, and then go through the movement. Good. And the next one then for the posterior chain is on the floor. You need your shoes off for this one. There's sort of 3 variations here. We're going to start with the medium one. I'll show you aggression and then a progression from here. So it's on the mat, on a mat, or ideally something a little bit more slippier, if you like, than the mat. So a wooden floor is ideal in your socks. So it's a little bit of friction here on the mat, so it stops us getting a nice sliding movement. But ultimately, what you need to do is get your hips up into that glute position, slide your feet out. We're going to go 2 feet slide out, and then 1 foot back, and the other foot back. Good, and then you repeat that again, 2 slide out. I'll talk you through the variation in a second. That's it. So nice, slow, eccentric movement out with 2 legs, 1 back with each leg. Now, the harder one here is you go 1 leg out, and 2 legs back. A lot harder. Oh, sorry. What I'm saying is you go 2 legs out. My bad. You go 2 legs out, and you go 1 leg back. It's harder. So so when you go 2 legs out, so this is what happens. You go 2 legs out. Yeah, go 2 legs out. Take 1 leg off, and then come back on that leg. So that's a lot harder. And then you go back out with 2 legs, and then you go out 1 leg again. So to make it easy, you go out with 2 legs and then come back with 1 leg. To make it really harder, you go out with 2 legs, take 1 leg off, and come back on 1 leg. That's the hard one. And if you find them struggling with these 2, just do 2 legs out and 2 legs back. 2 legs out and 2 legs back. You want to do 8 reps on each. Whether you're doing single leg, 8 reps on each leg, or you're doing 2 legs, 8 reps altogether. So it's quite a tough one here to do. The important point here is that you keep your hips in a good position when you do that. You don't want to be too sagged from the hips, and you don't want to be too extended when you do this either. So practice this. Is a nice one for the hamstrings if you can do it right. But remember, the most important thing with every exercise is competence. So if you can't do it competently, then it doesn't matter how integral the exercise is or how demanding the exercise is. If the technique and the movement isn't there, then it's the wrong exercise for you. So just practice at home, whether you're doing a 2 leg or single leg, whatever it might be. Just make sure you have competence and you have good range of motion in the movement, and then it'll be more appropriate for you or not. Okay, so there are your 2 posterior exercises. One is a bit challenging. The single leg also on a split stance on a good morning is quite a challenging exercise too, in terms of technique wise, and obviously 1 foot and the other is going to really load 1 leg over the other. Now we're going on to our jump and landing or our plyometric exercises. So again, we've got 2. Some are similar, some are a bit different. So we want to keep with because obviously we're going to go back to our sports very, very soon. We want to keep with this rotationally bias. We don't want to just keep everything up and down and forward and back. We want to make sure we are doing some rotational movement before we go back to our sport. So the first one is sort of what we've done before, but slightly different. We're going to go jump forward and then rotate, so left onto right. So you're going to go from left foot, jumping onto your right foot, and then rotate back on yourself. So you land on that leg again. Now the important point here is jump now as far forward as you can and as far back rotationally as possible. Yep, so jump, yeah, and jump back. Good. Now, what we're looking for here is focus on the hips. Yes, we're going to go as far forward as you can, but focus on the hips and look at the displacement of the hip. Do you jump up and out and back across? you shouldn't be doing as much. You should be jumping as little high as possible, but as far out as possible. So, okay, you'll have to generate some height to get off the floor, but we want you to travel across the floor as far as possible and travel back as far as possible without too much displacement, without too much energy lost in the vertical phase. So everything is horizontal as much as we can. Okay, so we'll try that again. On this one, you're going to go 4 reps, yeah, and then jumping across. Good. Now, see, this is interesting here as well. So what happens is when I commit then too much force forward, I don't have the capability then to transfer that energy backwards. So you find a balance between jumping as far out as you can to control the movement, to be able to jump back in a rotational sense as well. So you don't want it to make it 2 separate jumps. You want one after the other. Yeah, so perfect. Yeah, you find the balance. So I'm challenging myself in my jump out, and then I'm able to challenge myself in the jump back. Perfect. That's ideal. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for, a balance of out as far as I can, but also having the ability then to come back on myself and jump out. Okay, so you're going to do 4 on your left side, 4 on your right side, so that'll be 8 repetitions on that one. The next one, we're going to go laterally. Again, the same principle applies, horizontal movement only, and then rotationally. So you're going to jump across towards me, and then rotational across as well. That's it. Good. Good. And there's great application here for the sport that you're about to play. So there will be moments where you track your defender, and then he makes a run inside you, and you have that ability to turn and run after him. That rotational strength, rotational power is very, very important for our sport. And we're practicing that here in this lowest common denominator. And so there's not much contextual information here, environmental information here to overcome, as in we don't have an opponent with a ball that we have to overcome their unpredictability. It's all predicted. It's reactive in some way in the stretch shortening cycle, but it's not reactive it's too much in its complexity. So you should be able to try and load this very quickly and competently, I think, without too much noise. So make sure again we're traveling across laterally as much as we can without that too much vertical displacement. It's all horizontal, and then that rotational as well. This is very important. So there is your first jump and landing exercise. The next one is jump lunges, but the jump lunges this time is going to be with hand drivers. So you're going to do your jump lunges as normal. Sometimes people do it on the hips, but I actually want more glute loading on this one. So when I do it, I'm reaching to the floor, I'm jumping up again, I'm reaching to the floor, jumping up again, and each time I land, I'm reaching my hands to the floor. So let's have a practice of this. A lot harder exercise to do. Yep, and jump up. Good. Again, always coming up. So I want hip extension as well. So look up. Good. Drive up. Each time I want some good height every jump, and reaching to the floor as well. Good. 8 reps on each side. So a lot harder, a lot more taxing, and the reason why it's more taxing is more muscle loading. So if you drive the hands into something, you're going to drive the pelvis forward, which is going to load the glute and the hamstring more, and then you got to absorb all that force with that extra length of the glute and hamstring. But a very nice way to get some more muscle loading in an exercise that you might be familiar with. There your program. Is that your program? Your 6 exercises, 8 repetitions mostly on all of them. We'll obviously send a PDF to accompany each exercise. Take 2 minutes rest in between, and then repeat that 3 times. So 3 times around all the way. If you feel that you're competent to do a 4th one, by all means, this is this phase now and development phase, and the last kind of phase of development block, or the last block of development phase, you should be getting up to around 3 sets. And as training comes back into it, we have less opportunity to do our gym work, so we need to maintain a good volume and a good intensity to our gym stuff. The schedule and the timetable may change now with our reintroduction to full-time training, which will be put up on the to align with the program also. But I hope you see progression in what we're doing. Hope you enjoy it. Keep your strength up. It's very important when you go back onto the pitch that you maintain this good level of strength and power that you've developed over the last number of weeks. So keep going, and we're gonna continue our design of our program to accommodate your introduction back to training. Hope to see you soon.